Look at everybody here. Certainly we're all here to talk about Days of Our Lives. So, we're going to talk about Deadpool the Trilogy today. There will be spoilers. If you haven't seen Deadpool versus Wolverine, I'm really sorry. It also is going to be some adult content. We will keep it as clean as we can, but this is Deadpool. So, I'd like to start with a couple of housekeeping things. I have some rules that I use when I do panels. Then I will have the panelists introduce themselves and plug, and then we'll get started with some questions. So, 4 simple rules. We respect each other at all times. It's not negotiable. We argue opinions and not people. One person speaks at a time because I can't understand multiple people talking and I'll just stare at you until everybody stops talking. And then consider others may want a turn to speak and ask a question. I've set the mic up so that we can have people go. If somebody is differently abled and needs some help getting the microphone to them, we will have somebody run the mic out. So just raise your hand if you get to that point and we'll make that work. All right, if we can start with introductions.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Hanako M. I'm the creator and host of the Phantom Hybrid podcast. We are a pop culture podcast. We talk about TV shows and film, and we also discuss the Atlanta fan convention scene.
My name is Calvin Watts III. In addition to doing panels here, I am co-host and co-producer of a public access show back in Rhode Island called Sci-Fi Journal, which you can also catch on YouTube.
Hey, I'm Jer Alford. I'm on a publishing company called Mini Comics. We do our own stuff as well as public domain stuff. We just did a benefit one for Trevor Project, which is a LGBTQ suicide prevention fund. All of the proceeds go to the Trevor Project for that. Also do a comic book retrospective called Stupid Comics, where we look at really old weird stuff. We just did a fanzine called Not So Great Comics about the most insane comic book publishing company from the 40s, and also do reviews for Anime Anyway, a blog I run.
Man, that's awesome. I'm Michael Ritchey. I'm the author of like 50 billion novels. My latest is about dungeon accountants. So they're a team of auditors who go in to make your dungeon as good as possible. So it's like HGTV for dungeons. So
That's pretty dope.
you need to put your spike trap here and like etc.
That sounds really good.
You've seen Dungeon Builders, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so as far as comments from the audience, I'd like to wait about 15 minutes, generate some panel talk, and then people can come and line up for comments, and then we'll recognize in between panel commenters. Let's just start off. Do we think that Deadpool was the same character in all 3 movies?
No.
As far as his growth, or as far as whether or not this was like one version of Deadpool?
Whether it was consistent.
Yeah.
I'd say no.
I think one of the great things about Deadpool is that he's so open to everything. So it's like, I don't think he has like a specific thing that you expect from him. Like, you expect him to be raunchy, you expect him to be kind of over the top, but it's almost like anything goes for him. So I don't think there's at least for me, I don't look at him like, oh yes, this is the same person, he's doing the same things. He's just always ever evolving to me, and that's just him as a character.
Well, technically, I mean, I consider him to be the same person. Obviously, you know, what he is in Deadpool versus Wolverine isn't what he was in the original trilogy. He had to grow into that, and you could see the progression. And at some point, it just goes from 0 to 500 miles an hour, and it just kind of like stays there for the remainder of the trilogy.
Yeah. I think when he first starts out, he's kind of just a normal, mercenary, gun for hire kind of thing. But once everything starts going to superhero territory, I think I just kind of find it weird that he had like access to time travel. It's like, why didn't you just go back in time and make it so that your girlfriend didn't break up with you? I mean, you went back in time, made so she didn't die. Why didn't you just go back in time and make so she didn't break up with you?
I think he had already destroyed the cable box by that point.
And he had to kill himself writing Green Lantern. You know, essentially, I watched it with my wife. So my wife is not a fandom, like no sci-fi. She's like Midsummer Murders, right? And so I'm like, hey, let's watch Deadpool, and she's like, oh, okay, do my homework. And she really liked Deadpool, but she said it's because he was so humanized by Vanessa. So the writers for Bugs Bunny, they had to be careful because Bugs Bunny would like do total warfare on Elmer Fudd, so they had to make sure that Elmer Fudd did the first sin against Bugs Bunny, and then he could like be Bugs Bunny. Otherwise, he was just a jerk. And I think Deadpool was the same way. Is that you had to humanize him with relationships, and in the first movies that was Vanessa, in the second movie it was a family movie, and then in the third movie it was to get Vanessa back again, right? And it was also to save the universe, blah 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 blah. I would argue that the first and second are very similar, but this motivation to matter was kind of like that was like kind of a new. I don't know if that was like, and maybe that was just you could argue that was the growth of the character. Like in the first and the second, he's grown and changed. He's not just like a murderous mercenary. And then the third one, he's like, okay, I'm less of a monster, but now like what does that mean? And I want to matter, and it totally works for me. I mean, and he's so over the top, and he's so like, yeah, it's the same character, and like it's just like in some ways he's almost like a Jokerish kind of chaos demon.
And I thought it was interesting because I'm not convinced that who we ended up with is who we started with. Like, as far as thinking about that growth and how off kilter it went, and so that's why I wanted to toss it out. And then you have the variant problem too. Like,
do you think it was a character arc though? Do you think he's different because of the character arc, or do you think it's just like the writing is not as good?
So that's actually one of my questions.
Oh, damn.
Thank you. So, do we think it's different because of the character arc of the writing?
Dude, those movies are so well done and so well written. And I gotta say, like, I have like the last one I had an emotional reaction to, and I was like, I had to take some time out. Like, I left the theater and I was like, I need to do some serious, like the Fox stuff. But even like the Deadpool and like Hugh Jackman bringing it. I mean, he's such a good actor. And Ryan Reynolds is like, despite what he says, I think Ryan Reynolds is a good actor. And I think the emotional reaction I've had to each of those movies, I think it's really good writing. So I'm going to say it's character arc.
I think also too, especially with the third movie, it was written well, but also Ryan Reynolds really cares about these characters, and especially like with the ones he brought back for the cameos. I think everyone had an emotional response, even if you didn't like those characters in their original iterations. There was something about the way that they were brought back. Like, there was a lot of care that was taken to bring these characters back, to give them their proper dues. And I think that's one of the things that made it so great, is because you had that care put into it, and it wasn't just like, oh, we're just gonna do this and we're gonna throw these people in here as a money grab. You really felt the care that went into bringing these characters back.
It's definitely character arc, because you got to realize now the first two movies were still solely set in the Fox universe, so it might seem really simple to just, okay, we're just going to throw them into the MCU and it's going to be like that, but no, you had to do a lot of writing, you had to do a lot of planning, and especially in the third movie, and it's not just the cameos that people come in, the actress that played Cassandra Nova was excellent, and to somehow get this all meshed into which is basically a fan service movie and have it work for the entirety of the movie. I mean, I couldn't stop laughing, and I can't remember a movie where I just thoroughly enjoyed myself. It doesn't have to be Citizen Kane, where I just enjoyed it for what it was or what it is.
I did I liked it, but I think what they really have a problem with carrying on some stuff from other movies. It's like Fire Fist and Cable, who were like the main two side characters in Deadpool 2. They don't even get mentioned here. Is Cable still in present day? Could the time periods of authority take him back to his future or whatever? And Fire Fist, who was like, he goes to this other trouble saving him. Is he in jail or what now? It's like a half-second progress report on him wouldn't have helped just a second.
Yeah, I think I did find that kind of weird. It's like you take the two main characters from the second movie and you don't mention them at all, but you bring in like Shatterstar to just kind of be there in the party and you know Peter, but of course Peter.
Oh, Peter.
But he, I mean, but you know we don't have to have Peter. I mean, I get it, but yeah, I did
Every
find that
universe
weird
loves
that-
Peter.
Yeah.
I forget, Bob was not in that, you know, Agent Hydra. The guy who was.
Oh, yeah.
He was not in that. Oh, they should have had him at least in that.
Yeah, we gotta have tuna casserole. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be a TVA cut now. They cut him.
So kind of based on those thoughts, is the Deadpool universe now cohesive?
But as, about as much as the comics are. So.
Does it
I was gonna say,
matter?
define
Yeah.
cohesive.
I love making people work
I
hard.
don't know. Let me think about that.
Yeah, you're stumping the panel. Oh my god. Well, dude, part of like Deadpool is like breaking the fourth wall and like you know McAvoy or Stewart. I mean, it knows that it's not going to be. It knows it's a comic book movie. So in that sense, it has less stricture, and also multiverse, TVA, time hijinks. Right? I mean, this might not even be the same, you know, Daredevil or Deadpool that was in with Cable and Fire Fist, right? I think it is, but so I think it kind of like it transcends itself, right? It's almost like it breaks the fourth wall and then like keeps going to another fifth wall.
Well, I mean, there's like there's people complaining about it with She-Hulk, and I think that the TV show really handled it badly. So it's like there's everything is like in their own particular multiverse or their own reality. So you don't take something that's happening in one show, be translated to another. It's like if we're going by original fourth wall breaking characters, and I'm surprised Howard the Duck wasn't in the movie. So.
Wasn't Guardians though.
Wasn't he briefly?
No,
Wasn't there a cameo of Howard the Duck?
not in
Was
Deadpool.
Not
Not
in
Deadpool.
Deadpool, it wasn't?
No, I would have known.
No,
Guardians.
Guardians films and at
Which
least
one?
What if and Guardians of the Galaxy?
Maybe Guardians, that's what I'm
and,
thinking
and,
of, yeah.
and Avengers Endgame. I think, briefly.
Very briefly, yeah.
So y'all have already mentioned the motivation of Vanessa, right? I personally feel like that whole thing let us down in Deadpool vs. Wolverine, like how that was fleshed out, even though that was his motivation. What do we think about that? Y'all can please disagree with me all day if you want. I mean, that's the thing.
I mean, I think for me, it was just weird because you have him go through everything he went through in the second movie, going back in time to bring her back, and then in the third movie you introduce them as broken up, and then this is his motivation. But I actually think I like the fact that while she was his motivation, there wasn't a lot to deal with as far as the romance part, because for me, I was there for Wolverine, and like Vanessa is cool and all, and I absolutely love Morena Baccarin, but I was there for the bromance.
No.
So it didn't really bother me as much. Yeah.
And I think the people recognized that when they were making the film, because I mean there's a lot of characters that were there very briefly for like the first two movies, like the guy that played Colossus. So Colossus was in there, and Colossus is barely an afterthought. I mean, he's at the birthday party, and that's really it. And so, and what Hanako said is right. While it might have been nice to see a little more fleshed out, it really, especially with this one, it really needed is like, okay, let's kind of talk about what's going on, and let's get to what everybody wants to see.
Yeah.
I kind of would like to have them like explore a little bit more about how Deadpool knows about like with the time machine he had at the beginning, how he does end up in the MCU universe anyway, because it's a time travel, it's not a multiverse thing. So I like, how does he know to go see Happy Hogan and try to get hired by the Avengers?
Well, I was very moved by Deadpool 3, really moved. And so I called my friend, and I was like, and he called me right after. I'm like, I can't talk right now. I'm having a moment. And so he saw it, and he was like, he liked it, but he had all these like problems with the story.
Oh, jeez.
And he said it was interesting. He said, really, it's a slice of life. It's a Deadpool slice of life movie, right? I mean, it really is slice of lifey. And if you look at Cassandra Nova and how that's handled, if you look at the Vanessa thing, it's very muddled. The timeline, I had trouble figuring out the timeline because it's Happy Hogan, but at what point in the Avengers? And then Vanessa's not with them, and I'm like, well, they broke up because he kind of like, became like, a used car salesman, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And then you're like, oh, Wolverine, and this is, oh, dude, when he and then there's like all this stuff I love. So like, it's really a slice of life. So I'm really there, less about the story and more about the characters. It really is a character-driven, which is interesting because, and by the end, when they both have to do the thing with the thing, and they both have to save the universe. I'm like tears or something like that. So I'm like,
Tears,
The
but
Madonna
also how
music
hot
starts
that was.
I've seen more like fan re-edits of using that song to stuff like Justice League and Batman, and then they use that song. And it worked out pretty well.
and it feels like home.
This is the thing this was the song that got banned for a Coca-Cola commercial in the 80s.
Pepsi, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Tell the thing. Please don't ever do that again. This just means it's going to happen about 4 more times.
So, actually, to correct on your time travel, it's been explained in the MCU that time travel is done through the quantum realm. And if I'm not mistaken, feel free, anybody in the room, to crucify me for this, but I'm pretty sure the TVA is in the quantum realm.
So the Marriott's in the the building we're in right now. Or, well, no, not the Hilton, sorry.
Hey, we're part of the MCU. Hello.
I think they'd write my character out, probably. So then, and y'all keep like seeding these questions, it's great. How consistent are these supporting characters as we go through all the movies? The ones that do keep showing up versus the ones that don't?
Elaborate on that.
So, like, are we getting to see, as we see Deadpool's changing, and it may be variant hopping, who knows what's causing that, but that there are a couple of characters that keep going through with Deadpool in these movies. How consistent is that? Or how consistent are those characters, rather?
I mean, just from what we've seen, Peter is pretty consistent.
Yes.
And it's so weird because I'm not a Deadpool comic person. I'm like, the movies is the majority of what I know about Deadpool. So like, if you think about him in the second movie where, X-Force got killed off so quickly, you don't really think that he's gonna matter. So it's like when you do see these people show up, like in the promos for the birthday party, I'm like, okay, so why these particular people? But
Because they lived.
I mean, it's just kind of like, okay, so why would you bring them back? But I think one of the things I love about Peter's character is it's the same thing I love about like Hawkeye and Natasha's, like, this is a regular person around people with extraordinary powers, and there's something about the heart of this character that kind of informs the superhero. So I was like, okay, I like that. And then seeing how important he was to the other Deadpools, they're like, yeah, every Deadpool has a Peter.
Yeah, they all love him.
It made sense. Now, I will be honest, in this version of the character, I'm not really a Colossus fan for this one. Like, he comes across as very judgmental and very, I don't like him. I could have done without him.
So you're recently never armored down the whole time? It's like,
Well,
you're in a taxi cab with no space. Maybe if you weighed like 300 pounds less, they'd be able to get there faster.
Yeah.
He can do that?
Yeah?
oh yeah. Peter Rasputin.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's Colossus.
I know, but
He's like the Teddy, like, oh, he's like.
I don't know. He just irritated me in this. Like, I prefer X-Men Colossus to this Colossus.
That's really too bad because I had the interview. I had the chance to actually interview the guy that played Colossus back in like 2016 at Raleigh Comic. Stephen Patrick. He's a really, really nice guy, but I get he's very one-dimensional.
Yes.
So I
yes.
get that.
Well, I think he's the foil, right? I mean, he's like
Yeah,
he's
definitely the foil.
like in Doom Patrol they had Cyborg, right? And he was like, "We're superheroes doing good," and like.
Oh, it should have been Robot Man, really.
Yeah. But in Colossus, yeah, he's a one note, but and he comes with the teenage Megasonic teenage.
Negasonic change word.
See, her, I don't really mind her because she kind of, to me, she fits in with Deadpool because he's a smart ass and she's a smart ass.
Oh, she gives it right back to
And
him.
she's a younger smart ass, so she comes back at him and then kind of goes overboard, and he's just kind of like, what? So I totally get her character. I love her.
And I love how like Deadpool and Negasonic's girlfriend, partner,
Yeah.
friend,
Yukio.
Yukio, and I love how they're like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, whoa, so cute.
By the way, was that supposed to be the same one from the Wolverine movie who can see the future? You know, see when people die, because they never really confirmed that.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
As far as consistency goes, if you read the comics, Deadpool is the antithesis of consistency. Like, there's nothing consistent about any of those runs. Like, he'll be fighting ninja monkeys in one. He'll be trying to marry Death in the other. He'll be trying to kill the Marvel Universe in another. It's like he's literally all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's like to try to make these films feel consistent. If they don't, then they're really doing their job, because he bounces back and forth between a lot of things. As far as adventures, he doesn't really stay going straight. He's all over the place. So that kind of fits into who he is as a character.
He also isn't straight.
That too.
Not at all. Eye contact. We're gonna make eye contact. You.
Hey, I'm Ted. So my question is, I know that we have Doomsday coming, and then we have Secret Wars. Do you think Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, and Deadpool are going to play a huge part in this, like, X-Men versus Avengers type thing? Because it looks like that's where we're going, instead of, where we're going with Battle World and all sorts of stuff. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Until he's 90.
Until he's 90.
Until he's 90.
Okay.
We have him now. They can use Wolverine in anything, and I will watch it. I don't care.
As long as it's Hugh Jackman.
And at some point, the shirt comes off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the
I mean,
contract.
even without the shirt coming off, just his embodiment of the character, I will watch it in anything. If they had him in Secret Invasion, that would have made the show so much better.
We don't talk about Bruno.
No.
But yeah, no, I mean, just the idea of like how Secret Wars is just bringing in a whole multiverse, just people. And like now that we have Fox, we saw Blade, we saw Gambit, for that matter. Like, who else are we going to see in the future for this? This is like, I mean, Johnny Cage, you know what I'm saying? Are we going to see more of the Fantastic Four in this? Robert Downey Jr.'s new Doomsday. Like, are we going to see Spider-Man with the symbiote Black, going against Robert Downey Jr. at that? Like, there's just the possibilities of that, and I just want to know your thoughts.
I do think, especially after just how well this has been, Deadpool versus Wolverine has been received, and a lot of it has to do with the cameos and stuff. Secret Wars is basically an open checkbook, and you are going to see some surprises in there, some people that you probably never thought you were going to see, maybe some new characters coming in. They are going to play a part. Whether it's going to be a huge part because there are going to be so many characters in, that remains to be seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it also depends on like who officially the main bad guy is going to be. Is it going to be like Dark Doom? Is it going to be the Beyonder? Is it maybe a variation of Kang or something? It's hard to say, but I think and how much they think Deadpool and Wolverine will play in all that.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, at this point, I'm not gonna guess. I really just, in this day of the internet and everybody like trying to spoil and speculate, I really want to go into it with no expectations and just be surprised, because I stayed away from as many spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine as I could. So that, I think that made the movie so much better for me. I had such an emotional response to it. And it was because I didn't go out there and look and try to figure out, okay, who are they gonna bring in? And so I just wanna be surprised.
Yeah.
Man, it's okay. So in like Infinity War, when they brought in Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm like, man, this is not gonna work because it's so like their own thing, right? Like a James Gunn, their own thing. And man, it worked totally good, right? I mean, you know, better question is, why is she? And so you say that like Wolverine, like Deadpool, like Wolverine's fine, but like Deadpool, once you put Deadpool in a movie, like how do you like muzzle him, right? Do they just like
So it's
Wolverine
Malcolm.
or like
Stephen Quill
for a while
talked
when
just-
Stan Lee passed away, God rest his soul, I wanted to see Deadpool and I wanted to have Deadpool cameos in like every single Marvel movie because like he's such a force.
Yeah.
But I think if they could do it with Guardians of the Galaxy, I think they can do it with Deadpool. So I think they're
Or at
gonna
least a
have to,
variation.
they're gonna have to like, you know, dial it back. But in comics, you know, they're always like, you know, dialing it back.
I mean, at one point, Thor was crying.
We still don't know why.
Yeah. A
So
question
yeah,
to
I
the
think
end.
Deadpool's gonna be. I think it has to be in Secret Wars.
Yeah, I think one of the things they're going to end up doing with it, obviously, is they're going to use it as an opportunity to bring in a new Black Panther for the war. And some of the rumors is looking at the guy who did Snowfall, the main star from the FX's Snowfall, as I guess the grown-up version of T'Challa's son, possibly. Yeah, or the T'Challa from the alternate universe.
I get the feeling that they went through a lot of trouble to make sure that solidify that Shuri was the next Black Panther. So I think that just adding T'Challa's son at the end was just kind of saying like, no, he's dead, but something of him could continue. So, but I think they're gonna try to make T'Challa a little more the central Black Panther character in future MCU stuff.
I was hitting it, my bad.
It's cool, thank you.
I'm next. Oh, I want to know. I saw many phases, and I'm so excited what the Rougeau brothers are doing and what the different. I want to know what y'all think next because I don't know what's going to happen now because they brought kind of Marvel back with Deadpool and Wolverine, and it done gave it a new light. Now I'm excited again after the Marvels, the Women of Marvels. I was kind of down.
Oh, Marvels was great.
I was.
I love the Marvels.
I'm sorry. I was down. I thought they was going in the opposite direction, but now it seems like they're going in the right direction. I'm feeling good about it. So what you think they're gonna do after the Wolverine and the Deadpool thing? It's gonna be boosted a lot more better. I like that.
I think.
Oh, no, no, I was just gonna say, I really don't know, but like, so many people didn't like this most recent phase of Marvel, and I actually did enjoy the stories that they told. I thought it was
Stories are
something
good.
different, and something about what they're doing with the MCU and what they did with like the Avengers and coming out of the Avengers, like, you don't want to tell the same story. Like, we had a great, that particular, the Endgame and everything that was before that was a great story. You don't really want to repeat it. I understand people like, oh, that's when it was good, go back to that. I don't want to go back to that. I want to go forward and see what's going to be better. And I enjoyed the Eternals. I loved the Marvels. I loved She-Hulk, because it was so different.
Yeah.
So, as far as what they're gonna do going forward, I won't say. I think Deadpool and Wolverine kind of raised the bar a little, but I don't necessarily think that they are like it's doing a rebirth to the MCU because I don't think anything was broken with the MCU. I think it's just all perspective.
Maybe it's just
I
me.
love the stories that they were telling.
Can I?
More women-led stories.
I got a big voice.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
More women-led stories, and then as a biracial person,
I've got a big
like
voice.
the Eternals
It's gonna
spoke
blow
to
the
me
mic.
on a personal level. So yeah, I loved it.
I think a lot of it, though. Oh, sorry.
Wanted to go ahead and get everybody to.
Sure.
So to answer your question, I don't know how many of you have watched the older Fantastic Four movies. The Fantastic Four has played such an integral part of Marvel Comics from its inception. And Doctor Doom, that's where he came from. I think the Fantastic Four movie has got to work, because that's going to be what brings us into Doomsday, and that's what's going to bring us to the Secret Wars. They're going to probably make that as spoiler-free as possible, but that's going to be the linchpin. If they can make that work, then we're good. If they screw up with that, then God help us all. It's that simple.
I kind of think that one of the main problems is that they try to establish too many superheroes, some of them in the same universe and some of them not. I think Eternals would have worked if it was in its own separate universes. Like, they've been sitting out this whole time not doing anything, because it's like, it seems to me wiping out half the universe would disrupt the engineers plan, or I forget what they're doing. The Celestials, yeah. That would have totally disrupted their plan for harvesting Earth and everything. But if it was on some other reality, it would make sense. So now they have that. They have Monica Rambeau goes to another universe where there's the X-Men, and there's a version of her mother where she's I forget, Spectrum or whatever her name is. Yeah, Photon. She's had like several different names. But it's I think it's kind of trying to divide all these up into separate reality. I mean, that's what killed, Madam Web for a lot of people. I mean, it was a bad movie, but like, there's no way this fits into any of the given current Spider-Man stuff. So it's hard to it's going to see how all these different takes are going to fit in. Yeah. And you can always, the thing with Deadpool is, though, you could fit him in any of those stories. You could just say, he's like the Wade Wilson in this universe. He doesn't have any superpowers. He just likes putting on an outfit. Yeah, he's like someone from the Tick, just.
Let's go back to the heady days of 2008. 16 years ago. It was a simpler time. Unless you owned a house. But like, I was on a plane watching, and I'm like going through the plane. I'm like, what am I gonna watch? I'm like, Iron Man. I'm like, who cares about Iron Man, right? Okay, but I like sci-fi, fantasy, superheroes. Like, I love superheroes. So I'm like, I'll watch Iron Man. So I turn on Iron Man. I'm watching on the plane, and I'm like, I can't watch this on the plane. It's too good to watch on a plane. Yeah. It's a comic book movie. Yeah. And I'm not talking about the special effects. I'm talking about Robert Downey Jr., right? Yeah. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, I'm like, I hate this guy, right? And then, I'm like, Iron Man. I'm liking Iron Man, and he's like a douchebag, and I'm like, this is Iron Man, and this is the problem with all the the past phase. I like Eternals was a big, huge Jack Kirby comic book brought to the screen, right? I mean, I was like, wow, this is a big, huge Jack Kirby book brought to the screen. I mean, and all the things. It goes back to, and this is why Deadpool was so brilliant. It goes back to the writing has to take emotional risks, right? Mm-hmm. We were talking about the show Arcane. I was on a panel this morning talking about Arcane, and Arcane is a show that takes big emotional risks, right? And I think Marvel does best when they take big emotional risks and have A-level, and they have A-level actors, right? And it's because it was comic books with amazing character development. And what happened, with Multiverse of Madness, it was just a comic movie. I like comic movies. I would have watched Multiverse of Madness on the plane and have been fine. I would not have turned it off to watch it in a real environment. We have to have these stories that really, and like WandaVision, right? What is sorrow if not love enduring, right? What is grief if not love enduring? And so that's whatever they do, right? And I agree with Calvin. Fantastic Four has to hit. If Fantastic Four doesn't hit, I'll probably watch Doom Patrol again. It has to hit. I think, and I would go hardcore dysfunctional family dynamics. I would go hardcore. I would watch Arcane and do with Fantastic Four what they did with Arcane.
I had just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying about the Marvels. Is I think those kind of movies that the guys kind of go, they're really made for the female gaze. I think more women love those kind of movies because of the relationships and just the different ways that they would handle situations. It's almost like in the DC, the Harley Quinn movies, the Suicide Squad. and Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. Oh my God, I just rolling on the floor, and guys around me going, But I think it's just the storytelling. It's more for trying to get more women into the comic book, because face it, for years and years and years, we were excluded from the boys club. I mean, I was a comic book freak from junior high, and I was made fun of because I had my Superman and all the other ones that went with the DC comics, because I was a DC girl at the time. And we were excluded from that kind of thing. But now it seems like it's getting more inclusive by bringing in more of the female super. And the first Deadpool, it's a love story. That's what they set out. It's a love story. So you bring in your female audiences. It's a great date night movie.
Can I say one more thing and I'll be done? I would rather a Storm.
Well, yeah, but
She's a female.
she's a female, but right now she doesn't have the personality of some of these other people.
Okay.
Would you put the mic back?
The thing is, in the end, when you talk about writing and you talk about character arcs and you talk about all this, in the end, it's going to be an enjoyable movie for everybody to see. They're not just making movies for us geeks. They're making movies for the masses. On one hand, I love the Marvels. I thought the Marvels was great. But was it made for the masses? No, and unfortunately it didn't hit. Eternals, on the other hand, no offense. And I'm a comic book geek. Believe me, I have like 30,000 comic books. I've been collecting comic books since I was like 8. Eternals is boring. I really wanted to, but they introduced too much stuff, and what Jer was saying is absolutely right. I mean, okay, we just went through half the universe being destroyed, and what, we're not going to interfere? Really? And sometimes doing too much at once, you too many cooks. So the MCU is at a really big pivotal point. How they're gonna get to the future and how they're gonna do stuff is really these next few movies are really gonna determine how they're gonna succeed and set up future generations, or if we're just gonna fall back into what we can do. The best thing that Marvel has done from the beginning, from Iron Man, and it's and a little bit, and that's where with like Eternals and some of the other stuff where it comes back to bite them, is that it is all interconnected, and that's where DC totally flopped the ball with the DCEU.
Oh yeah.
But sometimes by trying to keep it interconnected, you have mishaps. It's going to be really interesting to see if they can keep the mishaps to a minimum and keep it cohesive, because if we are, then we're in for a real treat. But otherwise, it's going to be a roller coaster ride either way.
I'd say like the beginning part of that was with like a month after Iron Man 1 comes out, they come out with Incredible Hulk, and you have Tony Stark show up at the end of the movie, and you think this is going to carry over from the conclusion they had in Iron Man 1, but then you find out like 2 or 3 years later that him trying to talk to General Ross had nothing to do with it. They were just they had a one-shot special where S.H.I.E.L.D. used Tony Stark to throw Ross off their trail, trying to get Abomination of the Avengers. So they had like an idea, but then they are constantly changing it all the time. So.
I was just gonna comment, and I think Hanako. Yeah, Hanako was talking about how she thinks the MCU is like stayed like quality and hasn't really fallen off in terms of storytelling, and I kind of agree with her in the sense that I don't think the newer MCU movies have been like a all hope is lost situation, because I've gone back and watched some of like phase 1, 2, and 3, and everyone says like, oh, the Infinity Saga is like perfect storytelling, like it's enjoyable, but there were some like misses that they had during that era. Like nobody brings up things like Thor: The Dark World, or like the Incredible Hulk, or Iron Man 2, like a lot of that early phase. I kind of enjoyed Iron Man 3. Like a lot of people hate on that one, but I still enjoyed that one. But I just wanted to say that Marvel has always had like some misses, so I don't really think that it's fair to say that this whole these whole new phases 4 and 5 are like all hope is lost just because they might be missing more often, but there's still been some hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I
Good
mean,
point.
you can take probably whatever is ranked the lowest for Marvel films. I would still watch that before I ever lay my eyes on Madam Web. So
Yeah.
it wasn't that bad.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
Sorry.
See, I never read the book, I never read the comics, so coming at it as a newbie, not knowing anything about it, it wasn't bad.
Well, they lost me when they cast Dakota Johnson. So
Oh.
I mean, just watching that trailer, I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
What's wrong with?
Yeah, it's like there's been misses, but they've still been like not as bad as misses as like other things are doing. Like you go back to early 2000s superhero movies and you have like Halle Berry Catwoman,
Oh, yeah.
or
George Clooney hits.
or like Daredevil, Elektra.
I liked Elektra.
I actually liked Elektra.
I liked
so.
I fell asleep.
What I think, like, what Hanako said, like you don't want to do the same, like as I've written like over 50 books. For a while, I was writing a book a month, and so I was trying to do same but different, right? And I wish the Marvel would have done same but different. I wish they would have gathered the next team. Part of the problem I had with Phase 4 and 5 was that they're I don't know who the Avengers are, right? And I would have wanted, like, Shang-Chi was like a high point, right? Shang-Chi was amazing.
That was really good.
Why didn't they follow it up with a Shang-Chi 2?
Yeah.
And have, like, okay, he's gonna be now the center of the event, and like, why didn't they kind of like, you know, why didn't they start building the next team for the next event, right? That was one of my critiques.
Hi, Nick.
Hello.
Hey
everybody.
Hey, how you doing, Nick?
Oh.
I'm sort of between Aaron and Calvin, so when you guys would like talk about hits and misses, and when I watched the Eternals, I grade everything on a curve. I'm very, very generous, and I liked it okay, but then I started seeing some of the other things they were making, and now I think about it like I'm only an avid comic reader for the last couple of years, and I've realized about comics, they have all these different kind of voices and styles and takes and authors, and for movies, I think around Endgame, a lot of fans I think wanted the Infinity War Endgame feel for everything Marvel moving forward. And they jumped the shark so much with Endgame that the company had this crazy idea where they're like, maybe we can diversify like comics where, you know, She-Hulk is actually like She-Hulk. And a lot of fans were like, but I want She-Hulk to be like Endgame. I want it to have that voice, I want everything to feel like Russo brothers. So if you pick up comics, and you might flip through Echo and be like, I mean, I'm not hating, but I'm not sure this comic is for me. But then Echo shows up in another book, and it would be that kind of world. So I think you hear that a lot in like the way people talk about it. So when I watched Eternals again, and again, and it's like, oh my gosh, I enjoyed, the whole thing was like, let me introduce you to characters. And they did that really well because I liked all the characters. But yes, it is, I think I've gotten to a place where I like all the different voices. I don't know if you guys feel that way with the different shows, except Secret Invasion.
I'm gonna let y'all stop talking about Secret Invasion. I ran that panel last year and I love it, and y'all heard me love it last year. So.
Nobody's perfect.
Do you guys have thoughts on what that guy just? I mean, like that. I thought that was very like you opened my eyes, Nick. I'm a changed man. I'm leaving this panel like transformed.
He has that effect.
He does. He does.
I'm Nick, everybody. Hey.
Hey, Nick.
It's still boring. And don't get me wrong,
It may not be your book, you know?
it's still a watchable movie. Every movie set in the MCU, not Madame Web, but every movie set in the MCU is still watchable. It's just levels of what you said. I love Iron Man 2. Okay, is it a good movie? No, but it's a watchable movie. Is Eternals a great movie? No. They definitely, I mean, they had everything in there to make it a great movie. It just didn't work. But is it still a movie that you can watch? Yes. Well, for me anyway.
And I agree with you, Nick. Like I like She-Hulk because it was like slice of life, right? This is a slice of life Hulk, and I love the ending, how it gives Superman fourth wall meta. I mean, the actors who did it, actors were hard out. We had more Wong, we had the friend, who's the drunk friend, the shallow drunk friend.
Oh, Madison.
Like Madison, like a spin-off series is just Madison. I liked Echo.
That's in Wong, yeah.
Like I liked a lot of the shows, and WandaVision had me like.
Oh, yeah.
WandaVision is my favorite thing ever. I would have wanted like a whole season of just sitcoms.
Yeah.
But again, it didn't like Quantumania didn't have those emotional hooks for me, right? I mean, and I think you can have different voices, but we expect high level Russo storytelling. It doesn't have to be the Russo vision, but it has to be, I think, that storytelling.
I think it's funny, but also indicative of the Deadpool versus Wolverine movie that we have gone so far afield.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's because that's kind of what it did for us, right?
Yeah.
Is that we now have access and we have this entry because of this movie into places that I don't think the MCU was capable of going before the movie. And you got the TVA too? That's just...
Yeah.
More of a kind of a fan wish that I want to propose to the panel is, seeing how Marvel's not afraid to bring in C, D, and more obscure stuff and elevate them. What comic or character would you like to see brought into the MCU, even supporting wise, or as a nod that it has importance to you?
Squirrel Girl.
Yeah, I would love a Squirrel Girl movie.
That's the easy
Or
answer.
a series.
It's a great answer though.
If you want to give me some time, the character that got me into comics, like everyone likes, Wolverine and what have you, but the comic that made me go, I need to know about that, was Darkhawk. And so that was the one that I was like, yep, that's what I'm into, and then sky's the limit after that.
I can say straight up, the guy I want to see, the most obscure character I want to see brought in. I don't know if they give him his own movie, but he's already been in at least 2 Marvel movies. I want to see one of Man-Wolf, because I love Man-Wolf. He was like sort of a villain and a hero at the same time, then becomes like a space adventurer and everything. So at the same time, he's J. Jonah Jameson's son, so you can already have A.K. Simmons show up and do something in it. There's some potential for that.
For me, for a superhero, Speedball. I would like to see Speedball. I know, and that has a possibility of happening. The other one, that'll never happen just because he's so lame, but I think he's cool and I love the armor is still man. And that's just what he is. He's a guy who's in this armor thing, and he's on stilts that go up like 60 to 80 feet, and that's what he does.
I would like to see a proper Storm.
Yeah.
Like, I need the casting right, I need the writing right, proper Storm.
Angela Bassett, they missed out.
I said Angela Bassett when the first X-Men movie came out. I was like, she would be a perfect Storm. And now I think that time has passed, but give me Yetiti Badaki. I think that's her name. She was in American Gods, but she...
Who was she in American Gods?
She was oh my God, you got me blanking. But I'll pull her up so you can see her. But yeah, I think she would be amazing.
The sex goddess?
Yes.
Basilisk?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, she's looking it up, but going on her in regards to the X-Men, it is kind of like what I said earlier about the Fantastic Four getting right. We had a Wolverine panel on Sunday, and it was mixed, but mostly people like Hugh Jackman is fine. However, with some of the other, especially some of the other core X-Men with the other Fox movies, especially like Cyclops, as an example, it's been really uneven. So once they introduce the X-Men into this world, just kind of like probably even more importantly than the Fantastic Four, because for a long time it was the X-Men that ruled the comic world. I mean, they were it, and that's where Wolverine came into. They got to get the casting right.
That's right.
My two favorite limited series was the original Secret Wars, where Spider-Man gets his costume, and like the whole the Hulk is holding up the mountain, and Reed Richards is like goading him and like pissing him off so they don't cry. Dude, that's my favorite, and we're getting it, so yay for me. And then the second one, it's not Old Man Logan, but there was a run. It was Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, and Wolverine. Those two books were my favorite. So. And I think we're not going to get I love Kitty Pryde. She got sidelined by Jubilee. I'm not resentful though, so that's good.
Or Rogue sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rogue.
Yeah.
Give me the Southern Golf Road.
Is it Savage Land Rogue? That's what it was.
Yeah.
This is more of a comment than a question, if that's okay. It's part of the reason why I really liked the first Deadpool movie. We talked about the male gaze and the female gaze, but what about the female gaze? Because that was very important to have because our only options to look at were the same ones that the male gaze had, and you just had Black Widow, and you just had a couple different shots of her butt. I'm sorry, but that was her personality. She was great. That was her, right? Like you see this and yeah, she's cool, she can fight people, but why is the cover of the movie just her and so and also she just wasn't in my age range. Then Deadpool shows up and oh, here's two really powerful, in your age range, non-sexualized teenage girls who have personalities, and great. And it's and then the second movie rolls around, here's Domino. She isn't as sexualized either, and she's powerful and strong. And Marvel just couldn't get on Deadpool's level. And then now Marvel is now that it has Deadpool, I found that really nice. Now we have good female characters to look at.
Representation matters.
Representation matters. Absolutely.
Is there a reason why Domino wasn't in the movie?
I don't know.
They just probably didn't write her in it. It's just they had so much stuff in there. Where they gonna put her?
Okay.
Yeah, she was
Like Cable and Fire.
Yeah, she's good.
Yeah.
That's right.
She would have just been sitting at the table and we would have been disappointed.
But I would have rather seen Domino than Colossus, so.
He didn't do anything anyway.
Boo this woman.
Exactly, no.
And neither did half the people.
Okay, everybody calm down. We all right? All right.
I love you.
Domino didn't make it because she didn't get lucky enough. No, real questions. How did you guys feel the Deadpool 3? How did you feel about the post-credit scene?
Oh God!
The camp.
They show what Johnny Storm was
The
saying.
show what Johnny Storm was saying.
Oh,
Yeah, that's so funny.
I absolutely loved it, and I love that Chris Evans. I think the story is that Ryan asked him if he needed it on a cue card, and he was like, "Oh no, absolutely! I never get to say dialogue like this. I'm memorizing all this shit." I loved it.
I peed myself.
I thought it was great, but also if you're talking about the Fox montage, I absolutely love that they paid tribute to it. It's we pan the Fox movies or whatever, but for me, they're still enjoyable enough to watch. Like Calvin said, are they the greatest of the movies? No, but I actually, for me, the X-Men movies were what got me back into comic book, the comic book genre, because I read X-Men as a kid, and then because, growing up as a young black nerd in Atlanta, that just wasn't a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of I'm almost 50, so that even back then it just wasn't the thing. So I kind of backed off on it. So that brought me back into my nerddom and so I have a special place in my heart for those films, and to see them say, we've been making fun of it even in this movie, we talk down about them, but we really appreciate what you did to get us to introduce these characters to the world. I thought it was very respectful, and it was very well done.
Yeah, when he said "flame on" in the theater, just
Oh,
goes.
yes, no.
And he's acting just like it was. That was so great, and because I'm a big time X-Men fan, Pyro just kind of went like,
That was great.
But
that was just as great.
They ruined
I remember
it.
when they showed Black,
All the commercials
not Black
have
Panther. They showed I'm sorry, Blade. When they showed Blade, I was like, you know, every black
Yes.
fan was
Still
happy when they saw Blade in there. I was like, Wesley's
Everybody.
like,
Crazy.
Goes to the white
I
fans.
was so
You got to stay. Keep
I was
playing.
going crazy.
And we were in a movie theater like this, like, oh my
Keep-
God.
I was freaking
Keep
out.
playing. Keep playing. They gotta keep playing.
And one last thing, I like the I think my favorite, which is not my favorite Marvel fight scene, was the car fight scene because the way Hugh Jackman, he was acting as Wolverine, the way he just like Deadpool is this type of guy. Wherever you say, you can't even get to him, no matter how low you go. And it's like that's crazy how he got to him, and then he couldn't even say anything. He just said, "I'm gonna fight you." You just had this whole scenario of them fighting in the car.
And I did not realize that car seat belts extended that much.
The Honda Civic
I take it back. He actually said that.
hard.
The Odyssey, get it right. The
We're just
Odyssey.
getting
The
served.
Honda Odyssey, get it right.
That worked as an advertisement. We're all still talking.
Honda probably paid a lot of money to get that.
Probably.
So I'm going to be bringing a bit of the two different Marvel universes that are basically been tied together since they were thought of. How do you think the Deadpool universe is going to interact with the Spider-Verse?
And where is Miles Morales?
Part 2 is coming. Spider-Man 2099.
Depends on which Spider-Verse you're talking about. There's the Sony one, there's the MCU one, there's the
MCU
Spider-Verse one. So there's there's multiple Spider-Man.
Well, I'll say the MCU one with Spider-Man 2099 trying to make sure all the canon events happen. How do you think TVA will interact with that? And how do you think the Deadpool universe is going to interact with the Spider-Verse that's been brought into the screens?
That's another movie.
I don't know, but I know that Ryan Reynolds has said that both he and Hugh Jackman really want to do another movie with Tom Holland's Spider-Man just so they can abuse him the whole movie. and I have to say that I don't have a problem with that.
Something you should do, because Deadpool and Spider-Man teaming up they've had the last decade has been really good. I think in the comics.
Yeah,
So
comics have been awesome.
to not do something within the movie is just a total waste.
So the question was Madam Web and Deadpool.
Spider-Verse and Deadpool.
No, I'm
Spider-
pretty
no,
sure
please
you
don't.
said Madam Web. I am for it.
Nowhere to go but up.
So controversial, yet so brave. I think this is our last comment. Question?
I really wish they'd turn on the Miles Morales Spider-Man because I hate the way Tom Holland portrays.
Wait, I'm in the line of fire. Don't say that while I'm right here. Hold on.
Hold him back.
He's a little nerdy kid,
Yeah.
and Spider-Man has always been smart-mouthed and sharp, and everybody busts his chops, and he's like, well, screw you too, I can swing from a web kind of a person. He's just not Spider-Man to me, not that personality. He's a good actor. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, on that, I will say the Spider-Man being portrayed in the MCU now is the Spider-Man that I grew up with because it's the same Spider-Man from the animated Spider-Man series that were on for kids my age, and I'm 25 now. Sorry to everybody that feels old now.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.
Hey, just for you.
As a 67-year-old man,
Different
that
time.
explains a lot. Seriously, it does, because it's probably they morphed his
time.
personality over the years, and I missed it. I'll take
The
it.
animated Spider-Man that I grew up with was one that was incredibly smart, incredibly intelligent, was going to Stark conventions, ended up going to the high school that Stark was funding and studying science and robotics. But he still had the quips. So I'm with you there. He does not have the quips that Spider-Man should.
But they retconned him, and I didn't know it. Thank you.
And on that note, unfortunately, it is 3:29. So I know I was like, this could be 2 hours. So I want to do one last set of plugs for the panel. If they have anybody has anything they want to plug really quickly.
The Phantom Hybrid podcast, we talk about Marvel stuff on our podcast. You can find us on all the social media at Phantom Hybrid.
Sci-Fi Channel on YouTube if you really want to take a look at how bad the cable show that I do is. There you go.
Hey, just look up Anime Anyway or Stupid Comics on blogspot.com. Also got some cards up here if anyone wants to pick up. Got all my social media thing on there.
And Aaron Michael Ritchie online. I'm on the Facebook. Speaking of being old. And I have cards up here.
Dude, I'm right with you.
And I never introduced myself. I'm Dr. Birma Gainor, and thank you all for being here today to round us out.
If you want to see a panel like this next year, make sure you rate us in the app.
I want to